What are the best and the worst protein sources when you are on a ketogenic diet? It's not as simple as just getting your proteins and fats in. Honestly, if you really want to take care of your body, you have to take it one step further and know where your protein sources are coming from, but also what they're doing inside your body that you may not even be aware of. Hey, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I post 3 to 5 videos per week and also live broadcasts, so you'll never miss a beat when it comes down to health, fasting, ketosis, workouts, you name it. And if you're already a subscriber, make sure you hit that little bell icon so you can turn on notifications whenever I go live or post a new video. So let's get straight to it. I'm gonna lay out the 3 proteins that I think that you should focus on, and I'm gonna lay out the 3 proteins that I think you should absolutely avoid at all costs, or at least try to reduce your consumption of. First off, salmon. All right, this is kind of an obvious one, right? You would have expected Thomas DeLauer to be talking about salmon because it's higher fat and it just makes sense on a ketogenic diet. But I want to take it a little bit further than just traditional salmon. First off, let me explain why you want to make sure you're getting wild caught and not farmed. This is a story that you've probably heard before, but a lot of it has to do with what are called PCBs. PCBs stands for polychlorinated biphenyls, okay? And what these PCBs do is they cause a lot of chaos with your autoimmune system within your body. What that means is that whenever you consume these PCBs, it's triggering your immune system to actually start this cascade of different white blood cells and different immune responses that cause your body to fatigue. You may not feel it right at the front end, but you're gonna feel it when it comes down to burning fat, having more energy, things like that, because your body is wasting resources on triggering up the immune system than the resources it should be using to help you burn some fat, get in better shape, and feel great. So what we're finding, particularly in a study that was published in the Journal of Science, is that salmon samples that were wild caught ended up not having too much in the way of PCBs. Still a little bit because they were able to be consumed through whatever that fish was eating and through the ocean, et cetera, et cetera. But salmon that was farm raised ended up having 8 times as much in the way of PCBs. Okay, so we know farm raised bad, wild caught good. But let's talk about one other thing, the omega-3, omega-6 profile. And again, if you're a subscriber of mine, you know I talk about this all the time. But let me lay something out a little bit different. It's not the omega-3s we're focused on with the salmon. I honestly don't even care too much about that. I'm focusing more so on how much in the way of omega-6 there is. See, omega-6 is what we want to be watching. We don't want to be consuming a ton of it. Omega-6 is what's going to cause another inflammatory response within the body. It's also going to make you feel very foggy, and it's a very bad fat to run on when you're on a ketogenic diet. So what they've been finding is that when you take just a half a fillet of wild-caught salmon, you have approximately 340 milligrams of omega-6. But when you take that same half a fillet of salmon from a farm-raised source, there's almost 2,000 milligrams of omega-6. We're not talking a small negligible difference here. We're talking a huge difference that can make you feel like absolute garbage. So we don't want the omega-6s, we do want the omega-3s. Now the omega-3s have been shown in other studies to activate something that is known as mechanistic target of rapamycin. What the heck is that? Well, in short, it's called mTOR, and it's our body's anabolic system. It's what triggers our body to store muscle or to build muscle. And there was a study that was published in the Journal of Clinical Science that found that omega-3 consumption ended up increasing mTOR signaling by 50%, and ultimately ended up increasing protein synthesis by 50%. What does that mean to you as the ketogenic lifestyle person? It means that the protein you're going to consume is actually synthesized into muscle versus going through the gluconeogenesis pathway and getting converted into sugar and kicking you out of ketosis. So it's very, very important that you get the right amount of omega-3. Now, enough about salmon, but I do have one more little thing to add. Go for sockeye salmon. Atlantic salmon is higher fat, okay? We want to go for the leaner salmon. Okay, don't go for the high-fat salmon, even though we're supposed to believe that we should be eating salmon because of the fat content. No, forget all of that. Too much fat means also toxin buildup. Toxins are stored in the fat. So go for the salmon because the fats that are in it are good, but still go for the lowest fat salmon that you possibly can, like sockeye, the deep red stuff. All right, now let's get into the next thing. Let's talk about lean cuts of red meat. Why lean cuts? Okay, don't go for the super high fat cuts all the time unless you absolutely know the source. Okay, if we go for leaner cuts of meat, it allows us to control the fats that we're putting in our bodies. So let me break this down a little bit more. If you eat a leaner cut of meat, you're not relying on the fat coming from the meat. Because if you rely on the fat coming from the meat, you could be allowing yourself to become dependent on whatever toxins and whatever omega-3 profiles are in that meat, whatever that animal ate in the past. But if you eat a leaner cut of meat, contrary to what all the keto people out there will tell you, you can add your coconut oil in, you can add your avocado, you can add your macadamia nuts. You can take control of the fats while you still get good high quality protein. But when it comes down to beef, and I've done videos on this before, you have to make sure you're getting grass-finished beef. Do not get just grass-fed. Grass-finished means that it's had grass its entire life, so the omega-3 profile is good and solid. So again, when you choose the lower fat cuts of meat, you're getting the higher quality fats. Now this video is sponsored by ButcherBox. There's a company that has made it entirely possible to get grass-fed, grass-finished beef, and also pasture-raised chicken at a price cheaper than you'd find at the grocery store, delivered right to your door. So I really appreciate them sponsoring this video, what makes these kind of videos possible. So if you want to check them out and get a discount on that grass-fed, grass-finished beef, go ahead and check it out in the description below. But this rule applies for everything, okay? Even when it comes down to chicken, fish, whatever, always try to go for a leaner cut. You can control the fats a lot better. Now let's talk about another protein source, something that's not an actual meat. Okay, in this case, I want to talk about Bulgarian yogurt. Why on earth has Bulgarian yogurt not gotten more popular? I don't get it. It's awesome stuff. So Bulgarian yogurt uses a much more diverse bacteria profile in it. Whereas Greek yogurt, you're really just looking at Thermophilus and you're looking at a little bit of Bulgaricus, okay? Not a whole lot of different bacteria. But when you look at Bulgarian yogurt, you have bifidus added in there as well. And the bifidus strains are many. There are so many different strains of bifidus. So when you look at Bulgarian yogurt, you're getting such a diverse profile of bacteria. It can be a lot healthier on your gut and help you out with digestion, help you out with your immune system, help you out with your brain. But Bulgarian yogurt is different from Greek yogurt in the way that it's strained. In fact, it's barely strained at all. Greek yogurt is strained 3, 4, sometimes 5 times to get it that thick consistency, so it's really like a pudding. It tastes amazing, but it's missing a lot of the fun stuff that we really need, like we'd get out of Bulgarian yogurt. I'm not anti-Greek yogurt. I just think Bulgarian yogurt gives you a little bit more. Also going to give you a little bit more in the way of protein. It's going to give you a little bit more in the way of fat if you choose to get a higher fat version of it. But most importantly on the ketogenic diet, it's very, very low carb and significantly lower carb than Greek yogurt. So I highly recommend you check that stuff out. If you don't do dairy, check out coconut yogurt. Coconut yogurt is still a nice, complete protein with a good, diverse bacteria profile in it. All right, that was a mouthful, but now I gotta give you the stuff you should avoid, okay? I like to lead this video off with the positive. Now let's get into the kind of negative world. The first thing I want you to really be careful of is whey protein concentrate. When you look at whey proteins, you'll have whey protein concentrate and whey protein isolate. Okay? They're both whey protein. One is just a more isolated version. One still has the milk solids and everything like that. I want to talk about whey protein concentrate, but I also want to talk about whey in general. Whey is extremely insulinogenic. What that means is that it's going to trigger an insulin spike. When you're on a ketogenic diet, the whole goal is to get your insulin levels really low, make your blood sugar levels nice and stable. You don't want these spikes of insulin. Well, it's been found that whey protein is extremely insulinogenic, meaning if you consume whey protein shakes all the time, you're going to downregulate your insulin levels. When you downregulate your insulin levels, you're making it so that you're not going to be able to have that insulin sensitivity that you want, that control over your insulin. Definitely something you want to be careful of. Now, it's also been found that postprandial aminos, glucose-dependent peptides, and glucagon-like peptides are elevated after whey consumption to a higher degree than they are after white bread consumption. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means that when you consume whey protein, you're causing a higher spike in insulin and glucagon-like peptides, things that are going to trigger different hunger responses, more so than you would if you consumed white bread. Yes, whey protein spikes more insulin than white bread. That will kick you out of ketosis and it will make your life kind of miserable if you're wondering why you have big, massive energy swings on a ketogenic diet. Just chill out on the whey protein. The next thing, tilapia. Now, by now, again, you know that tilapia is probably not the highest quality fish. You've probably seen some things out there on the internet. But what's really interesting is that Johns Hopkins Center actually did some research and found that tilapia, generally speaking, is fed pig feces and chicken feces. Yeah. Do I need to say any more? Okay, so what's literally happening is tilapia's metabolism is so unique that it needs very little nutrition, which of course shines through when you eat it. You're not getting much nutrition. But that tilapia is eating literally feces, and it's extracting small amounts of nutrients out of that feces so that it can grow. But it doesn't grow a whole lot off of just feces, so they have to add one more thing, methyl testosterone, which sounds just like it is. Okay? methyl testosterone. They take testosterone, they add some methyl groups, and they swap them around in different chains, and they give you methyl testosterone, which basically is a steroid to make the tilapia grow. Well, what happens when we consume that? It affects our liver. In fact, it's outlawed in most countries, but for some reason the United States still allows methyl testosterone to be used in tilapia. In short, it's artificial fish, okay? Flat out, it's artificial fish. It's basically the candy bar of the fish world, so just forget it. Okay, now lastly, this one again might be obvious, but I need to address it because I know way too many people on the ketogenic diet that do this. Cut out the cold cuts, okay? They don't need to be there. So many people on keto will tell you, oh, I just take some string cheese and I wrap it in some salami, or I take some string cheese and I wrap it in my cold cut pastrami. Guys, it has been proven so many times now that different forms of cold cuts are linked to colorectal cancer. In fact, the American Institute of Cancer Research published a study just a couple of years ago that found that if you consume 3.5 ounces, a small amount of deli meat daily, you have a 36% increase in your risk of colorectal cancer. Now, all cancer aside, because I know that's kind of deferred, we don't always think of cancer in the forefront, we think of it later on, and we don't always practically apply it to today's life. All that aside, if it's triggering that, what is it doing to our DNA or our RNA? It's possibly causing an issue where our body is not synthesizing protein properly, not using nutrients properly. The fact is, don't be a cheapskate, okay? Get the right stuff, get the high quality stuff, and as always, make sure you're keeping it locked in here on my videos so you can learn what works for you. And make sure you take advantage of that Butcher Box offer that's down below in the description. Honestly, it literally is cheaper than the grocery store, so you need to check it out. I will see you in the next video.